Hello everyone, and welcome to my talk entitled New Information Literacy Horizons, Making the Case for Career Information Literacy. Today I'm going to talk to you about some interesting findings that have been emerging from my research into career information literacy. And the main message that I'm going to put forward is that career information literacy is a new and exciting area of research which calls into question our existing understandings and assumptions about information literacy in relation to work. I'm defining career information literacy as a type of information literacy that functions as a sense-making and meaning-making tool which is applied when an individual transitions between different instances of work, education, vocational training, and periods of looking for work, and learns more about themselves and their wider career environment. Career information literacy is therefore a set of socially situated attitudes, behaviors, skills, and relationships which are omnipresent in our working lives, but become most prominent when we are planning a transition. Crucially, my goal is to convince you that career information literacy should be considered as an additional and separate area of study that complements existing work on workplace information literacy and employability information literacy. And to do so, I'm going to present an overview of existing work within these two areas before moving on to career information literacy. We will see that career information literacy is very much understudied and is at risk of continuing to be understudied unless it can establish a strong identity for itself and tap into aspects of working lives which have not been fully addressed by workplace and employability information literacy. Before I get into the research, let me just say a few words about myself. I'm a first-year PhD student at the Edinburgh Napier School of Computing, based in Edinburgh, Scotland, and I'm researching career information literacy and the career decision-making behaviors of young people. I'm an interdisciplinary researcher, and I'm looking to bring insights from information literacy into the career development field, and vice versa. I'm applying some concepts from career studies to information literacy, which gives me a unique and sometimes also critical perspective on the dominant traditions in each of the two disciplines that I work within. I'm supervised by Professor Hazel, Dr. Peter Robertson, and Dr. Peter Cruickshank, and I'm funded through a collaborative studentship grant, which is administered by the Economic and Social Research Council in association with the Scottish Graduate School of Social Sciences and Skills Development Scotland. So today I'm presenting the findings from my literature review on the broad theme of information literacy and work, which was undertaken between January and April this year. In doing this literature review, I paid particular attention to the points of divergence and agreement in the field, and I aimed to identify gaps in knowledge with reference to the conceptual, temporal, and spatial manifestations of information literacy in working lives. The three focal areas of the literature review were workplace information literacy, employability information literacy, and career information literacy. Due to the interdisciplinary nature of the larger research project to which this literature review contributes, the focus of the literature search was on research outputs from library and information science and also career studies. I performed a targeted literature search using multiple academic databases such as Web of Science in the time range between the year 2000 and 2021, with one exception, which was a hugely popular entry from Christine Bruce in 1999 on workplace information literacy. I used variations and combinations of 12 keywords such as career, decision-making, education, and employability in order to achieve a thorough coverage of the literature. Since most information literacy research has focused on information literacy in higher education and the library, results for information literacy and work were limited. I retrieved a total of 106 items, including journal articles, book chapters, and conference proceedings, and then classified them according to their thematic focus as either workplace, employability, or career. The main findings that emerged were that information literacy in the workplace has received considerably more research attention than employability and career information literacy, and workplace information literacy is reserved for information literacy within the physical boundaries of the workplace, whereas employability information literacy is an offshoot of workplace information literacy, which aligns most closely with the graduate employability agenda, namely job seeking after graduation and generic employability skills. Career information literacy has tended to resemble employability information literacy and currently lacks any particular differentiation from it. In workplace information literacy, some research has looked at the notion of profession and professional development, which is not entirely the same as career because a profession is about advancement in one particular occupation or line of work and networking with people who are in the same profession as us, while career is a higher level concept which can include any number of current or hypothetical professions which are linked together in a personal development narrative. Within these three conceptualizations of information literacy and work, we can see that employability is typically reduced to one particular transition between higher education and work, and short-term outcomes are favored over longer-term outcomes. Learning about the self and what types of work one finds meaningful and rewarding are not always part of the narrative, and information literacy instruction does not usually support holistic career planning, whereby individuals consider wider opportunity structures beyond those immediately available or marketed to them. What's really important to mention here is that lifelong employability and long-term career planning do not necessarily need to be studied via longitudinal research. We can also conceptualize them as what an individual does in the present with a view towards their longer-term career goals. And here we can begin to foster integrative and long-term career planning attitudes via skills development initiatives and a sort of sustainable employability mindset. Doing so then allows us to give people more agency of their career decision-making processes, and that agency is achieved through deriving meaning from one's experiences, which is in turn a vehicle for proactivity and positivity and effective career decision-making during transitions at any point across the lifespan. Now let's briefly zoom into workplace, employability, and career information literacy in turn. First off, we have workplace information literacy. Since 2000, two main schools of thought can be identified in the literature. That published between the years 2000 and 2008 generally establishes the initial boundaries of the subject by indicating that information literacy is necessary in the workplace and demonstrating its linkages with organizational effectiveness through case studies. Information literacy here is seen as a compulsory thing to have, not an optional thing to have. As Mark Forster has said it before, it's information literacy or death because information and research evidence are crucial to have in many professions, and professionals have an ethical and standard of service obligation to locate and apply the latest information in their practice. However, there has been a bias in earlier publications towards reporting that information literacy is most needed in information-intensive occupations rather than in all occupations. From roughly the year 2008 onwards, sociocultural information literacy research has been prevalent, mainly in Anne-Marie Lloyd's work, and she has stated that information literacy is trapped between a rock and a hard place, which reflects a certain tension and a problem of translation between the more dominant formal and fixed traits of information literacy scholarship and the reconceptualization of information literacy in the workplace as something more than a set of generic skills. There's quite a lot of evidence now to suggest that information literacy skills obtained in higher education or in one workplace do not always translate into another workplace. And the reason for this is that information literacy is a way of knowing an information landscape, and it is dependent on context and social relationships. Work tasks in everyday practice can be unpredictable and they can vary from one workplace to another, and they most certainly deviate from the types of structured assignments that we may see in higher education. Therefore, the generalizability of existing information literacy frameworks and modes of instruction needs to be called into question when talking about the workplace and information literacy in everyday settings. We need more sociocultural research into workplace information literacy But also, I think that there is an opportunity for us as well to diversify our methodologies and increase the scope of studies to the organizational and strategic level, in addition to studying lived experiences, so that this dogma of information literacy or death can truly become embedded in organizational thinking alongside better established concepts such as knowledge management and information management. Next, we have employability information literacy, which refers to information literacy for the purposes of securing a job. The benefit of studying this type of information literacy is that it extends research beyond the physical boundaries of the workplace, and it deals with everyday scenarios that have something to do with work but occur outside of the workplace. So it encapsulates unemployment, school to work transitions, and employability training as well within community contexts. In most cases, though, it has dealt with school to work transitions and graduate employability rather than with adult literacies, as we shall see. I found that employability information literacy has been studied through three main lenses, and those are community and library, higher education, and employer, all of which refer to graduate employability. Each lens reflects the interpretation of information literacy by a different set of stakeholders who have an interest in graduate outcomes and have their own institutional agenda. Firstly, libraries and community interventions can help individuals improve their generic digital literacy skills, prepare them for working in a specific profession, or teach them how to write a CV or research a specific employer. Secondly, in higher education, there are interlinked efforts across university departments, libraries, and services, which results in subject-specific information literacy instruction, which, however, tends to be abstracted away from individuals' unique circumstances. There are some programs which attempt to link identity development, lifelong learning, and career decision making with information literacy, but these are few and far between. And the most comprehensive and contextualized information literacy programs are in fact delivered to career counseling students. Finally, there is research which frames employability from the perspective of the employer. In essence, employability is what the employer deems it to be, no more, no less, and it is a short-term type of employability. Each lens, therefore, risks overlooking important situated and lifelong aspects of information literacy. Finally, we have career information literacy, which is my area of study. Now, you might wonder, isn't this just another name for employability information literacy? I would argue that career has a lot to offer to the information literacy field, and that career information literacy can stand on its own because it fulfills a function that's different from generic or short-term employability. You may have noticed that there was something missing in the three employability information literacy lenses I presented earlier. We had a community and library, higher education, and an employer lens. But what's missing is an individual lens. And I think that this is where career information literacy can make a contribution. Currently, career information literacy is just another form of employability information literacy, and the few existing studies of career information literacy do not deal with career. They deal with graduate employability in a largely generic way. For example, students are taught how to conduct job searches for opportunities relevant to the subject they're studying at university, but there's little emphasis on more comprehensive information literacy education that can help students plan for a career and look further than their most immediate transition. I'm still in an early stage of my studies. However, I would speculate that career information literacy instruction should help students consider their own preferences and aptitudes, as well as external opportunity structures, and should highlight what the role of information is in career development processes. This mode of instruction can then scaffold lifelong career resilience, which has not been fully addressed by employability information literacy. In my research, I'm using career construction ideas originating in career studies in order to conceptualize career information literacy as a way of knowing and as a way of navigating information landscapes, which is governed by principles such as self-management, career learning, and career planning. At a conceptual level, employability consists of a set of skills that can help with gaining employment, but career is what I would call an ongoing personal development project whereby individuals engage in lifelong career development and learning and take action towards their long-term career development goals. There are two main ideas that feed into my definition of career information literacy. One is empowerment, and another is managing transitions. Career construction theory holds that career is a meaning-making device which allows individuals to construct their identity whilst also constructing their career pathways, and it emphasizes agency and self-management across the lifespan. This empowerment and meaning-making can then be applied to managing transitions, and hence, I intend to study career information literacy in the context of career development learning and career decision-making going into the second year of my PhD. That marks the end of my presentation. Many thanks for listening. Please contact me if you have any questions.